paying greater attention to is the rise of cryptocurrency, because what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency, for destabilizing nations, perhaps starting with small ones, but going much larger. So when we think about this new environment in which we find ourselves that we've been discussing for the last some minutes, we can't just think about nation states.
Happy Bitcoin Tuesday, freaks. It's your boy, Matt Odell, here for another Citadel Dispatch, the interactive live show about Bitcoin distributed systems, privacy, and open source software. That clip out you just heard was from failed presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, explaining the absolute power and significance of Bitcoin to the New Economy Forum. Huge shout out to the Ride or Die freaks who are joining us in the live chat. I know it's an earlier time than usual, but I got a straight fire group of guests to join us today, and we had to make this time work. Happy Thanksgiving to all the American freaks out there. I know it's a big family week for most of us, so make sure you treat your families with at least some modicum of respect when you're talking about Bitcoin. Huge shout out to all the Ride or Die freaks who continue to support the show and keep it ad-free, sponsor-free, and purely focused on actionable Bitcoin discussion. The easiest way to support the show is through Podcasting 2.0 apps. My two favorites are Fountain Podcasts and Breeze Wallet. Breeze, that's B-R-E-E-Z. If you just download one of those apps, you can load it up with sats, search Citadel Dispatch, and you can send sats directly to my node as you listen to the show. You can also support Dispatch at citadeldispatch.com, either through Lightning or through Paynim. My Samurai Paynim is Odell. It is very easy to remember. So thank you again for supporting the show, and thank you to the Ride or Dies who continue to join us in the live chat, which, a reminder, I had some people ask me, you can access through Twitter, Twitch, or YouTube, whichever platform you prefer. With all that said, we have Citadel Dispatch 45 today. The focus is going to be on the future of mobile Lightning wallets. I expect, and I think many Bitcoiners would agree with me, that the overwhelming majority of new Bitcoiners will come in through phone wallets. And on that note, many of them will come in through Lightning. So mobile Lightning wallets are an extremely important topic, and how we develop them, how we improve them, how we see them going forward is going to be a very important topic. I am very excited to have repeat guest Fiat Jaff here, prolific Lightning developer with very strong opinionated, very strong opinions. How's it going, Fiat Jaff?
Yeah, it's good. Not many prolific contributions lately, but still strong opinions.
Well, welcome back. Happy to have you again. We have Anton here, lead maintainer of Simple Bitcoin Wallet, a mobile on-chain and Lightning wallet. How's it going, Anton?
It's been fine, thanks.
Thank you for coming on. And we have Eric Sirion here, who has a new proposal for federated Chaumian Lightning wallets that aim to bring more privacy and easier UX to mobile Lightning wallets. How's it going, Eric?
Quite well. Just came back from an awesome week in El Salvador where I experienced Lightning in the real world firsthand.
Well, I mean, that's a good place to start. Anton or Fiat Jaff, were either of you in El Salvador?
No, I haven't been there.
No.
What was your experience like, Eric?
Like the few shops that supported Lightning, like not everyone did, but the ones that did and were using like a community built wallets, like Bitcoin Beach Wallet, all these good things. They still had some problems with UX. Like people were entering their own amounts they want to pay, and like it wasn't as smooth as it could be. So I think we can do a lot better, and I'm looking forward to contribute to that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of mixed experiences on the ground, particularly with the Chivo wallet, the government wallet, which I guess a lot of merchants use because they want to instantly convert to US dollars.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about that. That was just horrible. Like Chivo just didn't work. Like the people that figured out how to generate the Lightning invoice on Chivo, then they had to fight with huge delays before the transactions was with, yeah, like that's definitely not the good part of experiencing Lightning in El Salvador. But Bitcoin Beach was doing much better. So if you want to visit there, that's the place to go.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, Bitcoin Beach has been on the ground helping merchants and helping users for at least a couple of years now, if not longer. So they did kind of have a head start on El Salvador. I mean, I thought it was an interesting spot to start because, I mean, El Salvador is a whole country that got thrown into Lightning by their president. And most of them aren't going to use computers. They're going to be using mobile wallets. And most of them aren't going to be using on-chain. They're going to be using Lightning. So I feel like it kind of was a big kick in the ass to the community to really prioritize better UX and more user-friendly mobile Lightning wallets sooner rather than later. Did you also get that vibe, Eric?
Very much so. And one other thing that showed in El Salvador is that like most of the local people, they actually use like not self-sovereign wallets, but custodial or semi-custodial solutions like Bitcoin Beach Wallet. So, and that's exactly what I was thinking when I was developing my eCash idea. And I think that's where PHF and Anton agree with me. And we have many other points we disagree on, but that's the one thing we might agree on.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get to the disagreement.
Lightning.
I'm very excited to get to the disagreement, but before we get there, I was thinking, let's start with Anton about a simple Bitcoin wallet. It's a great wallet right now that exists. It's available on app stores. Thanks. You can download the APK directly. Then the basic structure of the conversation today. Then let's move to your Chaumian eCash proposal, federated Chaumian eCash proposal, and how you see it working out in practice. And then let's dive into open discussion on trade-offs and critiques and thoughts. So Anton, you want to start us off? Simple Bitcoin wallet. Why should I use it? Why should the freaks care?
Okay, so I'd say that the grand goal here in developing this thing is to make Lightning wallet which actually works. And by this I mean the wallet where you can send an arbitrary Lightning payment, and most of the time it succeeds. And I guess most Lightning users will agree with me that currently this is not the case. A lot of payments fail all the time. And in my opinion, which is somewhat based on experience, this is due to liquidity issues which are present on Lightning. And What I mean by liquidity here is channel balances or working capital, which is required to get your payment through in certain direction. And this is an issue because in Lightning, this liquidity, it's not present as some global pool which you can use, but it's like scattered across all these channels, and levels of liquidity are very different in different directions. So as a result, even if we put all the bugs and inefficiencies away, this issue is still present, and a lot of payments still fail because of it. So my opinion is, if we can develop any technologies which can help with this, then we should. And that's what I've been doing for the past few months with my library and wallet. And concrete things I've been working on. There are two things. They are called one is called hosted channels, and another one is private routing. The end goal of both is increasing liquidity levels, and they are both supported by Simple Bitcoin Wallet. Hosted channels, revised version of them actually works for about a month now, and private routing is coming this year. So hopefully that will help and provide for the best experience possible.
So simple Bitcoin wallet is using a mobile focused Lightning implementation in the back end called Immortan. Are you the lead
Yes.
maintainer of that as well?
Yes, that's true.
So I feel like that's a good place to start. So Immortan is mobile focused. What makes it mobile focused? Like what is the strategy there when you're developing Immortan?
Well, it's focused on private channels mostly. So, and private and mobile are kind of synonyms. So there. And when we have private channels, we can have some pretty unique privacy properties, like a node which can only have private channels may not have a stable node ID. And that increases privacy because that node ID is not shown in invoices. Every node I connect to can see my wallet as some kind of different remote node, and so on. So, and
So that's like the public key is like basically rotating. It's not like a fixed public key.
yeah. But of course, the main focus is again liquidity via private routing. So if we have these private channels, we can make them route payments as well, and that's what it's about really. Plus hosted channels, of course.
So when I download Simple Bitcoin Wallet, or when any user downloads Simple Bitcoin Wallet, they automatically have a hosted channel
Yes, a private one.
open for 1 million sats to receive. So they can
Yes.
instantly receive funds, which is a common complaint with Lightning, is that it takes work to be able to receive funds because you don't have inbound liquidity.
Yeah, inbound liquidity problem. Yes.
So what's the high level explanation of hosted channels and their trade-offs?
Okay, so hosted channel is a way to add some trust between peers on a protocol level, and I'd say let the rest of the network leverage the trust. And technically, it's a new kind of channel, a hosted channel, which does not have chain backing in principle. So this is where trust comes from. And it gets implanted into Lightning node and to the rest of the subsystems in that node. It looks just like another channel. So it can participate in Lightning stuff like multi-part payments and routing and so on. And
but it doesn't exist on chain. There's no UTXO commitment.
Yes, of course, yes. That's the idea.
That's interesting. So it is custodial by design, or is it?
Yes, of course, it's custodial solution, 100%.
So when you have a hosted channel, I'm trusting the provider of the hosted channel for that hosted channel.
Yes, you do.
And I get the benefit of what's my benefit out of that? My benefit is, I guess, lower fees. I don't have to worry about an on-chain transaction.
Yeah, you get that. You get inbound liquidity and all the Lightning stuff like privacy, because routing graph is still on your device, so you can construct routes locally, and hosted channel provider has no idea whom you're paying to. This is one of the differences between other custodians who actually know everything about
So that
their
would be like the
users.
difference between something like Wallet of Satoshi, which is just straight custodial, no hosted channels.
Yes. Increased privacy is one, yes.
You can't say like on Wallet of Satoshi, you tell them, oh, pay this porn website for me, and then they will know. But with a hosted channel, you just build a route on your phone, and the payment goes, and they don't know where it's going. You can also like split do a multi-part payment.
Yeah,
So
basically
they even know that the amount.
An idea is to mimic chain-backed Lightning channels as closely as possible. So basically, the only thing hosted channel misses is chain part. When it comes to Lightning, it can be treated like a normal Lightning channel. So we have all Lightning features like privacy, deniability. Deniability when routing payments. So we can always say that the payment that we sent or received was never our payment, and we have know nothing about it, and it just was a routed payment, stuff like that. Okay,
Yeah,
and
apart from the routing privacy, I think the other big benefit of hosted channels is that they are standard. Like you can choose your hosted channel provider, and you're not bound to trust this one app provider like Wallet of Satoshi just because they happen to build the app. But you can choose a friend of yours, for example, and choose any other hosted channel capable app.
You can choose your own node, for example. It won't be custodial then. Instead of opening a normal channel to your own node, which does not make too much sense, you can open a hosted channel. And that's cool. And of course, you can have many hosted channel providers in single wallet. So you can have, say, 2 or 3 hosted channels which lead to different providers, and you can use all them at once for multi-part payments, which is also an interesting property, I'd say. And
wait, so when on Simple Bitcoin Wallet, I automatically have a open hosted channel to me when I start the wallet. So I have inbound liquidity. If I open a channel, if I load it up with on-chain funds and I open a channel where I can choose any node right now that's ClearNet, or if I use Orbot, I can choose one that's Tor. Is that a normal channel or is that a hosted channel? That's a normal channel, right?
Well, there's hosted channel is denoted as such. There's clear text, hosted channel, and custodial solution below it. And normal channel does not have it, so that's how you can discern that. And yes, of course, if you open channel to someone by funding it from your chain wallet, that would be a chain-backed channel, not a hosted one.
Gotcha.
By the way, my LNTX bot node, it has hosted channels enabled, so anyone could, in theory, have a hosted channel from the LNTX bot node through their Simple Bitcoin wallet. So it works. It works.
Another important thing, and probably the coolest thing about it, in my opinion, is so far we have been discussing private hosted channels. And just like normal public channels, two peers may establish a hosted channel between them and declare it public to the rest of the network. And everyone else on the network can use that channel to route their own payments, and they can do it without any trust assumptions or trust assumptions added. Or in other words, if you are a sender of payment, and even if you don't like this hosted channels idea at all, and all your local channels are backed on chain, so basically you are using classic Lightning, let's say, if you see that some hosted channel exists somewhere deep in the network, it is totally safe to use it for your own payments, because whatever happens in that hosted channel deep on the network, you can always either get your payment delivered to recipient, or you can get it back on chain from your local channel. So even if you don't like this idea, don't participate in it in any way, you still only have upside from this and no downside. And linking this to my liquidity talk at start, these hosted channels, once they become public, they increase total liquidity on the network, and that leads to more successful payments and more user satisfaction. For example, it's a working scene already. There are 3 nodes and 2 hosted channels between them. And this has been working for about 3 weeks now, and we have a few hundred routed payments through them.
So, I mean, Fiat Jeff mentioned that the LN transaction bot node accepts basically like inbound hosted channel requests.
Yes.
How isn't there a trust issue there for Fiat Jeff that I could open up a hosted channel with him and route a payment through it, and there's no on-chain backing, like there's no like collateral backing it? Am I missing something there?
When you open a channel, like if you get a channel from my node, it will be all the liquidity on my side.
Oh, okay. It's the reverse. So you
yeah, of course.
you can't just like open a hosted channel outbound to some random node.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't.
Okay, that makes sense.
Really little sense here.
Yeah, I was a little bit I was like, that sounds like a massive hole. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you guys thought about that already. Okay, so that's awesome. So you have the UX benefits of traditional custodial wallets like Wallet of Satoshi, but you have performance and privacy benefits rather than that in a hosted channel model to distill it.
Yeah, almost, because in order to receive payment, such a channel still has to be online, unlike, say, Wallet of Satoshi. But it's for a very good reason, because in hosted channels, just like in normal channels, the final receiver is the one who releases pre-match, and as such, hosted channel users can prove then he really received payment, or if host starts like acting funny, it can prove that payment that it has received and for which it has released a pre-match still the money belongs to receiver. I hope
so you have to have the wallet open when you're receiving, right?
Excuse me, what?
You're saying you have to have the wallet open when you're receiving?
Yeah, basically, yes.
With a fully custodial thing, you presumably don't have to.
Yeah, the thing with fully custodial is they receive payment on your behalf. So they can say things like they never received it. With hosted channel, it's still you who received it. So you can prove that you really received it if they say you didn't. That's another difference.
Freaks in the live chat. I mean, if you have any questions, as always, feel free to hit us. Whatever you're saying, hit us.
Yeah. Does it do you any good to like claim that your hosted channel provider scammed you? Like otherwise, if you say you trust them anyway, then you could also just give them the pre-image, and then you wouldn't have the problem that you need to keep your wallet open to receive.
Yeah, well, then they can say that you never received that payment and you have no way to prove otherwise. That's the thing.
Yeah, but you're trusting them anyway.
So, yes, there's trust involved, but it's not that kind of trust that you have in normal custodial provider like Wallet of Satoshi. In hosted channels, there's still balanced distribution is always cryptographically provable. So you can prove that whatever host owes to you, that it is the case. So this is the reason to have all this.
So it's essentially secured by the potential of raising a stink on Twitter that some specific hosted channel provider scammed you, and you couldn't do this giving them the pre-image, because then they could just claim you actually never got an invoice paid.
You get
Yes.
like cryptographic proof of exit scam.
Yes. Yeah, that's true, yes. Because exit scam is probably the only type of scam that host can perform, because they can't scam selectively, because that will become very visible immediately.
Yeah, but the one thing about the exit scam is that it happens all at once, like the mark of an exit scam. So what is the benefit of being able to prove that someone just exited and just lost their funds anyway, and no one else will trust them anymore? So no matter.
Well, I mean, presumably someone like Wallet of Satoshi could, and they haven't as far as I'm aware, but they could conceivably be stealing money from like certain individuals in small amounts without doing a full-blown exit scam.
Yes, totally, they could. That's the thing about Lightning. It's much worse, I'd say, that even on chain in this regard, because everything is off chain, and if you use these custodians, nothing is provable at all. They can do anything. They can claim that, that whatever payment you receive, you didn't receive, and it's your word against theirs.
I mean, a perfect example feels like the experience people are hearing about Chivo, which is a fully custodial wallet, the government wallet of El Salvador, where you pay a Lightning payment, and then the sender's wallet says that it was successfully sent, but the receiver has no proof that they don't see it on their side. And then you call support or whatever, and support's like, you got to call up Lightning and get your money refunded. If Chivo was using hosted wallets, then at least you'd have some kind of receipt. You'd have like a cryptographic proof that you didn't get your money.
Yeah, if Chivo would use hosted channels, then it would just be a routing node, and receiving would have actually happened at user wallets. So yeah, it would be a totally different situation.
That's actually a good point. Like, it prevents implementation errors, kind of. Like, currently, that feels like a big implementation bug in Chivo, but by requiring to query the client for the pre-image, you kind of prevent this whole set of bugs that you could build into such a system.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. Okay, so that's hosted wallets and simple Bitcoin wallet. Now let's move to Eric's federated Charmian eCash proposal. Eric, you want to describe that high level for us?
Yeah, and I think it's really good that we started with hosted channels, because, like, in some sense, federated eCash is just an extension of that idea. Because my observation was, like, most people will not be able to run their own Lightning nodes. So what do we do about it? Like, letting them go to banks, to traditional custodians, it's the worst solution of all. But on the other hand, like, I can't expect someone who maybe makes $5 a day to open a channel for $4. That's also not viable. So we already touched on hosted channels, and in my opinion, there are two major concerns. The first is obviously trust. Like, you need to trust your hosted channel provider. And federated eCash solves, not really solves, but a problem by distributing the trust over multiple parties, of which now some might be malicious without the whole thing falling apart. Like, if you have a federation of 4, one can just be malicious and all your funds are safe, the federation stays operational. And the second thing that federated eCash solves is privacy. Because while hosted channels provide good payment privacy, the account holdings privacy isn't all that great, because your hosted channel provider still sees how much he owes you. He knows how much you own in the hosted channel. So with eCash, you also hide how much you own in a certain eCash federation. which is equivalent to the hosted channel provider. So on a high level, these are the two things that federated eCache fixes.
So when I attempt to describe your proposal, the way I kind of describe it is you have the UX benefits of a custodial Lightning wallet. You have the custodial risk of actual funds loss being mitigated because instead of a single custodian, you have this collection of custodians that have to basically collude to steal your money. So people can think of that like a multi-sig custodian. And then you have this privacy benefit of Charming eCache, where not only do you have privacy from the custodian, but you get increased privacy for all of your operations on the greater Lightning Network, the larger that pool of funds gets within that federation. So you're able to operate in both these cases, with both hosted channels and federated Charming eCache, you're able to operate among the greater Lightning Network. You can send and receive from any Lightning wallet to those wallets.
Exactly, yeah. And the nice thing about the eCache is that it's actually perfectly private. Like at least federation internal eCache to eCache transactions, there you have essentially the anonymity set of your entire federation, more or less. Like there are some details that I'm leaving out, but like in an ideal federation, that's the case. Then like there's the second case where are interacting with the wider Lightning Network, and that's a little bit more complicated. Like you can definitely hide when you're sending a Lightning transaction that who is the sender, and if you're the recipient, who's the recipient. It's the problem is hiding the other side, like the Lightning side. It actually did some great work, because like what you're doing there is you let the Lightning the client actually route. So you only give an onion message to the service provider or the federation, and then let them send it one step further instead of making them route and all the stuff. A lot more information. I kind of think of it as a UX trade-off, and like one caveat I have to add here is that federated eCache is a research project right now. Like there's no product, nothing that you should use or could use on Bitcoin today. So I don't even have the Lightning integration as it should be implemented yet. Okay, I'm actually not sure if I will go the hosted channel way of routing, or like the more traditional, let's tell the federation where I want my payment to go way of routing. That's still ongoing research, essentially, for me. The hosted channel approach is a really interesting trade-off. And other things like the payment privacy proposed by Bastien Tétonier, where you essentially include a blinded path in your invoice, that's also a great option. And I will see whatever works best and provides the best UX and best privacy. Because in my opinion, what is most important is to couple privacy with good UX, so people actually want to use it, because otherwise you will have the 10 people that need privacy use your service, but all the other people that don't really care will use something else, and then you have an anonymity set of 10. That's not what we want.
Right now, like using Bitcoin privately is more difficult and more expensive than the alternative, and you want to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah, let's make it the most convenient and cheapest form of payment. That's what I'm aiming for with federated eCache.
Awesome. So I think that was a pretty good high level on Eric's proposal. I know Anton and Fiat Jaff have some feedback and some critiques. So you guys want to jump into that, and we can have some good productive discussion here.
Yeah, maybe whatever concerns privacy and security, it's an interesting question here, because So yeah, like has been explained by Eric, this federated cache thing wants to be a thing of its own, and then also a Lightning scaling solution, kinda. So it wants to integrate with Lightning, and if we are to extend Lightning with this solutions, custodial solutions, we can talk about their quality, I guess, in the way that, for example, when we're using normal channels with graph on device, we have certain useful features besides of chain payments, such as, for example, I can list 3 of them, which are related to privacy and security. First is already mentioned privacy when sending a payment, because sender has a graph on device and can construct a route. And the second one is enforceability on chain when receiving a payment, which is due to HTLC mechanics, where receiver can publish transaction on chain if peer starts to play some games and not updating a state. And the third one is already mentioned deniability, which comes from ability to route payment. And deniability here is ability to always claim that this payment is not yours. So I'd say a good extension to Lightning, custodial extension, would retain as much of those properties as possible. And when it comes to hosted channels, sender privacy and deniability are retained in full, and enforceability on chain is of course thrown away because there is no chain part, but it's replaced with probability, which is weaker notion, but still better than nothing. And well, yeah, when it comes to federated cache, I think there's like no consideration has been given to these things yet. So this concerns me a bit.
Yeah, so let me start from the back of your list of 3 points. Like, I think deniability actually becomes less important once you have the anonymity that eCache provides, because when you're sending a payment, then the sender is completely anonymous anyway, like except for maybe leaking something on the Lightning side, which we need to consider too. But like, so does hosted channels need to do. So you don't really gain anything from, in theory, having routed a payment or not. Like, you don't care. Like,
Okay.
you as a sender and anonymous in the first place. Okay. The enforceability, there I fully agree with you. Like, eCache is not auditable, so you fully trust the federation. But as I said, like, putting trust in a federation, because let's say you have a community where you have 4 people that under normal circumstances are well regarded, have reputation, and you trust. But one of them now has an accident and needs a lot of money on really short notice. Otherwise, he dies, for example. Then he would certainly exit scam you in a hosted channel scenario, because that's just how incentives work. But in a federated scenario, like, one of these 4 he can't even stop the federation and extort you. That would already need 2 participants. So you're much safer as a user. And so I think it might be a reasonable trade-off to just fully trust the federation in exchange for way better privacy. Because eCache
I have another question then. I have another question then. It's again about Lightning integration. How this federation would manage a Lightning node? Because it doesn't seem like an easy task to me to split the control between many. Yeah, please go.
That's actually a really interesting question. Like, a federated eCache in and of itself does not need to have anything to do with Lightning. Like, in the basic model that I'm currently building, you have an on-chain multisig wallet where you have the majority of backing funds, and for these you get eCache tokens issued using smart contracts inside the federation. to incentivize an external Lightning gateway, which has its own funds, which are not counted towards the backing funds of the Federation, to make payments for you or to receive payments for you. So essentially, you build a bridge between Lightning and your Federation through these gateway nodes. And so the Lightning, like a single third party, but due to the smart contracts, you essentially rebuild HTLCs inside the Federation, more or less. Yeah, that's like the current plan, and like in some future version of it, I could also like imagine having a fully federated Lightning node. But as you said, that's really complicated. It needs a bunch of changes to the peer-to-peer protocol. It definitely needs taproot and Schnorr signatures, Cs, like all the good stuff. So that's not on the. So yeah, maybe one thing I should mention is that by doing so, I assume that the funds held in Lightning are way smaller than the total packed in funds or the total deposited funds in the Federation. Because otherwise, this model wouldn't make any sense, because the Lightning node essentially needs to hold a doubling because they can't be counted to Federation.
So this is what I was going to say. Like, I see like a conflict between having multiple small federations. Like, I don't know if the name mini mint is intended to mean that these federations will be small, and like having a large federation with a ton of accounts in it, because you need either a large thing with a ton of people using, so they can transact between them, or you need very good interoperability between many small providers. Right?
Yeah, that's why you need Lightning, probably, to not convince everyone around to use your tokens beyond your users.
Yeah, exactly. That's
my understanding. At least.
Why Lightning is so important. So you have interoperability between these different mints. And I agree, the more expensive on-chain transactions get, the larger the Federation needs to grow. And I'm not entirely sure that having the Lightning node external to the Federation makes it significantly worse, like a 2x factor, I think. That's maybe the difference between a 10 user federation or a 20 user federation being economical. So we will see in the long. It will be a market process. That's the great thing. Like we are all building this stuff as open source software, so everyone can just run it, and we will see whatever wins. And also, for me, it's currently research. Probably won't be ready for mass market in 2 years or so. I kind of hope to have a working prototype that a reckless person can set up on mainnet. But yeah, it's research.
Excuse me, is it just me, or the quality is absolutely bad?
I mean, Eric's breaking up a little bit, but I can mostly hear him.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, the last thing he said is that he doesn't expect to have, a working app available for at least 2 years.
Okay, I see.
Maybe you're hearing my background noise.
No, you've been good about background noise recently. So I mean, 2 years. So like realistically, that's like 4 years, right, Eric?
Yeah, possibly. Like I'm always taking into account such things. Like I was at this 2 year thing. Like I mentioned, ideally in 1 year, like for next HCPP, I will have some working prototype on mainnet where I run a federation, so only I will lose funds. That should already work. We need to be really careful with new experimental things, so that people don't trust. Yeah. So I tend to be a little bit more conservative.
I mean, I think I think before you even have an app out, like people are going to learn the hard way the current custodial risks in terms of stuff like Wallet of Satoshi and Blue Wallet. Well, Blue Wallet is only custodial for its Lightning, at least by default, not on chain. I mean, we saw previously, I don't know if you guys remember, one of the most popular, at one point, one of the most popular mobile Lightning wallets was Dropbit, which was a custodial Lightning wallet. And the feds, the US government, raided them because that guy, I think Larry Harmon was his name, was running a mixer as well, a custodial mixer, and they seized all the funds. Everyone lost all their money. And people forget that really quickly. But as I see, I mean, I was looking at all the videos of people buying pupusas in El Salvador this week. A lot of people were using Wallet of Satoshi, like a lot of people that you'd think would know better. You know, they say, oh, it's just for a small amount, but you know, that small amount tends to grow.
Yeah, I remember that
Yeah, it's
story
just way too
clearly,
convenient.
and that's the reason my hosted channels are limited to only 1 million Satoshi, so they work just like entry point, and then user just can't receive more. I have no desire to like store any more money for my users.
So, I mean, the way I look at it, from a UX point of view, there's obviously massive benefits to custodial. As a Bitcoiner, I am emotionally, I'm obviously against custodial models. Makes me a little bit sick just thinking about it. Hosted channels seems like a decent trade-off balance in terms of UX, privacy, and security for the near term. And then ideally something like this federated Chaumian proposal for the future kind of improves on that trade-off balance. Fiat and Anton, do you disagree with that thought process or that analysis?
Not necessarily, but I guess I'd better see something real with relation to this Fedimint, and then I could make a better judgment.
What I think is like, if Eric managed to get a federated Lightning node running, and then like he will have to implement something that looks like hosted chains today to achieve better privacy for outgoing and incoming Lightning payments, and then it will be good.
I guess even more recently than Dropbit, one of my favorite Lightning wallets, which I use to receive donations for the show as well, is Fiat Jaff's LNTX bot, which is a Lightning wallet, a custodial Lightning wallet that operates on Telegram. And you recently got attacked, right? You lost all your funds.
Not all funds, but a ton of funds. It's
And then-
not an attack, like a bug.
And then all this
started.
start. Well, you don't think it was an attack? You think it was
No.
like an accidental fund drain?
Yeah, some random user and like started exploiting. This happened in the past. This last one was the biggest one.
But you don't think it was intentional, or do you think?
Oh, I think it was intentional, but like the guy spotted he stepped on the bug and without understanding what was happening.
And then
he
he
just
was like,
saw,
I
"Oh,
get
can
infinite money."
free money. Yeah.
And then I guess, I mean, I don't agree with everything he does, but is it true that Alistair Milne jumped in and made you whole so the wallet could keep going?
Yes, amazing. I didn't expect
cheers
that.
to him.
Like, he just gave me a ton of money.
Yeah, what was it? It was like
Just-
14 million sats or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's like $7,500 or something like that.
Yes, that's it.
That's impressive. He just jumped right in there on Twitter. I was impressed. I mean, like I said, I don't agree with everything he does, but
Yeah,
I
that's
think
admirable.
he's enjoying the bot on his Telegram group.
yeah, I mean, the bot is dope.
Yeah, but
It's definitely a lot of
it's
fun.
not worth that ton of money he gave me to fund the bot.
That's awesome. So I mean, I didn't realize, but you guys hit on an interesting point there. I mean, in Bitcoin land, we like to, if we see something that's like a theoretical proposal that looks awesome, we tend to really hype the fuck out of it. I think I'm better than most, but I will admit that with Eric's Federated Charmian eCash proposal, I got very excited. I'm still very excited because, I mean, to me, I have a privacy focus, and I'm like constantly trying to educate new users on using Bitcoin privately. And there's so many nuances. There's so many difficulties. Like the fact that you could have like an easy, low cost, mobile focused, very private way of using Bitcoin, to me is like, I mean, it would save me so much time. I mean, if someone's only spending $100, $200, a million sats, 2 million sats, like if they can just download an app and have relatively good security guarantees in terms of custodial risk and have very good privacy guarantees at very low fees, to me, that's like a holy grail. I would save a ton of time when I'm trying to educate new users. Now, one thing that I missed in this whole aspect is what Anton mentioned earlier, and I think we need to highlight that a little bit more. I mean, this idea that the federation with these Charmian tokens is separate from the actual Lightning node itself. That seems to be the biggest hurdle here. Would you agree, Eric?
I don't see it as such a big hurdle. I mean, it's also not intended to stay that way forever. Like ideally,
Right.
at some point, we can actually federate a Lightning node. But for now, like it's just so much easier to implement it that way and not just wait another 7 years to get federated Lightning nodes.
I'm going to be an
So,
old
but
man and I'm
rather
going to
get
get
it
to
in 2
finally
years.
use it. What,
Yes, exactly. And I also
do you need
didn't want
anything
to.
do you need anything besides Taproot to federate a Lightning node?
I'm not entirely sure. Like the problem is I'm not that much of a Lightning developer. I don't know all that much about Lightning. Like I spoke to some people I met in Miami, and they were pretty in actually building a distributed Lightning node eventually. But I think much work that needs to be done before. Like even just getting all the Taproot benefits into Lightning, eventually probably resulting in L2 and all the good stuff. Like that will take a lot of time. So they are not thinking about this right now, as far as I'm aware.
So I have a question. Like, what do you have against having, instead of a bunch of federations, you have a big federation like Liquid, but that's being a Charmian mint, and then
Okay.
the need for Lightning decreases very much.
So at the risk of pissing off someone at Blockstream, no, seriously. I think this one federation all approach isn't all that great to onboard the general users of Bitcoin. Like Liquid is great, for example, for traders that trust exchanges anyway. They don't really give a shit. Like their trust model is far worse, and with Liquid it doesn't get that much worse. But normal Bitcoin users should have higher standards when it comes to custodial risk, and like having this one big federation to rule them all would become a systemic risk over time, in my opinion. And that's not what I want for Bitcoin. That's not what I want to work on. Like if there wouldn't be a possibility to easily integrate different or make federations interoperable, I wouldn't have proposed it. Even so, it's still a really interesting research idea. But like only by making them interoperable, they're really a benefit to Bitcoin, in my opinion. Otherwise, there would be too much of a risk that over time it would centralize into like just one big federation.
So another idea that just came to my mind: what if you have like a special protocol that could be like some payment channel stuff, but special for federations that involve a trust between federations, that you could like link multiple federations using that, and then people could route payments between federations. I'm like bypassing Lightning completely, but still splitting the trust between many federations.
But what would be the difference between such an inter-federation payment layer? Like, if you still want to avoid trust between federations, which is really important, then you definitely need something like Lightning. And at that point, why not just connect it to the wider Lightning network? That just has benefits.
Yeah, because we don't know how to make a federated Lightning node. That's the reason. And it could be simpler to do a payment channel based on trust between federations.
I don't want payment channels based on trust. That's really bad. Like, even worse in the case of these federations, because the great thing about having Lightning integration with these federations is that you can start your own without asking for permission. If you need a trusted channel to other federations, then you're at this point where you have to ask for permission to cooperate with them and open these channels. That would be horrible. That would just recreate banking.
Well, you still need permission for Lightning nodes, like, to establish a channel. So I don't see what's the difference there. If it's open, if you can open channels to anyone, like, I don't know.
I mean, today, Lightning node doesn't really care if I open a channel to there.
I do care. I hate people opening channels from other nodes.
Oh, wow. You have a strong opinion on that. Didn't know. No, but generally, I imagine Lightning to stay this open network where, like, if I open a channel to you, you don't ask too many questions. Otherwise, it will be a failure. Otherwise, it will be captured by regulators. That's the big problem. If certain peers to connect to you, then Lightning will tend to centralize. So that's why I'm also not too big of a fan of routing hosted channels. Like, they're great for users, for end users, but between your Lightning nodes, they create a big risk of, like, exit scams. Like, let's say half your channels are hosted channels, and then you just pull all the funds out of them, put them into your real channels, and close them, and you're gone. That's a big risk. And secondly, you might actually get for time before you do this, you get a big benefit, unfair benefit when it comes to competition, namely that you don't need to expend as much capital as you. I know, so I'm not too big of a fan of routing hosted channels, but you might disagree.
I haven't heard all of what you said, but there was something unfair in there, and then I didn't hear. Can you please repeat that part? What is exactly unfair?
Essentially, you get an unfair advantage over your peers that use fully backed channels.
So, like,
I mean, it's not really unfair in that sense, but like, until people figure out they can use this to exit scam, and then the market will have to price in that risk. The market distortion that disincentivizes actually having the backing funds.
Don't know about that. Well, to me, it's like if you open a hosted channel, you take certain risk. Yes, you don't put funds on chain, so you have spared some working capital, but you have a risk of exit scam. So, to my understanding, it's fair. You understand your risks. And what is important, if something goes wrong, this does not spread further.
Yeah, exactly. My fear is that people will sorry.
I mean, go on, Eric. I think Anton finished. Your fear is?
Yeah, I have finished.
So you were cutting out a bit for me. It's probably me. But yeah, if people understand these risks, it's great. Then I love.
Yeah, well, a lot of hosted channels could be a problem. I'd agree with that. But hopefully, people won't be taking that much risks.
But this is specifically if the hosted channels are routing hosted channels. If they're private hosted channels for an end user,
Okay.
then you don't have
yeah,
that
he was
risk,
cutting
right?
in and out a bit for me. It was probably me, so. So, yeah, my fear is that people underestimate the exit scam risk.
Well, see,
Maybe it's hard to say.
I mean, my fear is Lightning has not really operated in an
End-user channels shouldn't
adversarial
have this risk.
environment. I mean, Lightning hasn't operated in an adversarial environment, period. So I think most people are underestimating the risk, period, of having funds on Lightning. Would you guys disagree with that?
Yeah, no. I think some of those attacks that people write white papers about, they're serious, and I think also no one who wants to attack has the knowledge to operate these attacks. So far, I guess.
Well, there was this attack when Lightning channels were not actually backed by real transactions. So, well,
I guess we were
wouldn't
kind of running hosted channels the whole time, and we didn't even know.
yeah, without even knowing it. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I've had a relatively, multiple relatively large Lightning nodes for over 2 years now, and I've just been waiting for my funds to get lost. That hasn't happened yet. No, I mean, this discussion is super interesting. I would go back to what Fiat Jaffa was saying earlier about why the Lightning component in the first place. And to me, would Eric's proposal be interesting still if he didn't have the Lightning component? Yes, because I care about privacy on Bitcoin being easier. But it wouldn't be nearly as interesting to me for the interoperability aspect of it. Like, it's not only the fact that the federations can interoperate very easily. Like what I've noticed with Liquid, which absolutely nobody uses. I mean, I have mempool.space up, but if I switch it, I could switch it right now to the Liquid one. Just fucking absolutely empty. The biggest friction to me with Liquid is that it's a separate chain, and it's that in and out. It's moving between the two chains that is so difficult. So not only do you have the interoperability benefit for the actual federation, so you could have more federations that can work together via Lightning. You also have that benefit of being able to directly operate, directly interact with any kind of other Lightning wallet, including the ton of merchants that are already onboarded onto Lightning. Like if you go to El Salvador, like no one accepts Liquid, no one will accept a new federation token, but they're already accepting Lightning. So like that's the main advantage to me. Or if you use something like Strike to onboard and you're going bank account through Strike, like you can pay into any Lightning wallet. If Eric's proposal rings true, then you could just go straight into that federation. You wouldn't have to deal with any external swap services or any friction like that.
I think his proposal, we can't say very much because the Lightning part is not decided, but it has a kind of a swap thing. I think it's not very different from the thing I said. I was like, I never finished my bridge between Liquid and Bitcoin Lightning networks. Like something like that could solve Liquid, like could make Liquid reusable, for example. And then I think if Eric has federations that have a way to do this, like they could be usable too. And that's his idea, right? It's just not defined what he's going to do.
I'm going to switch back from the Liquid Block Explorer because that is just depressing as fuck. Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense to me. We lost Eric, so now we're just having a conversation about his proposal without him. What do you guys want to cover? You have anything? And we have some more time here. If you have any lightning hot takes
Yeah, I tried to use Moon Wallet today for the first time. Oh, not
with two
today.
U's, Moon with two U's.
Moon with two. Yeah, 2 U's. Yes. Yeah. And I couldn't get a payment. I think the idea was that you would receive a Lightning payment and it would open a channel to you, right? But I tried to pay that invoice I generated and it never opened a channel because I wasn't able to pay the invoice because the fees were too high, something like that. All the nodes, all the wallets I tried, they always said that the fees were too high. So this is like, I'm just saying this to say that this trustless open a channel on demand thing, it's very bad idea for me, at least in my
Well,
experience.
Moon is, like everyone else in this chat, I mean, besides me, is focused on, trying to make mobile UX easy. The single best thing they've done is that if you scan any QR code, you're able to pay it. Whether that's a Lightning QR code, whether that's SegWit, Legacy, Taproot address, any QR code you can sign, you should be able to pay it. It registers and you should be able to pay it. The Lightning side operates on a semi-custodial basis. That then it's settled on chain relatively quickly after the fact. Now, I'm pretty sure.
Isn't it a channel like Phoenix, for example, that opens a channel to
No,
you?
they don't open a channel to you. They're just using swaps and the overwhelming majority of your funds are actually kept in a 2 of 2 multi-sig on chain, and they're using on-demand swaps. Now, I think their biggest issue is something we're going to see in the Lightning space a lot, where it is so. It is easy to use, so it's recommended often. And with El Salvador and with this, more people using mobile Lightning wallets, their liquidity is just completely wrecked. Like they just do not have, good liquidity. I've noticed it many times trying to receive Lightning on Moon. It's definitely a massive pain point. And I also don't know how if everything's supposed to settle on chain, like that does not scale if we actually have sustained high fees on chain. So that's a whole different.
Well, my understanding is I thought it was opening channels. I think the V1 was with swaps.
It's also news to me. I thought they had some kind of channel somewhere. I mean, on user side.
I knew the V1 was based on swaps. I didn't know about this multi-sigs. But then I listened to some podcasts where the Dario, the guy from Moon, said they had that V2 that had a variant of LND running on the phone. So I assumed
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm operating under the previous one. But either way, I've used Moon and the liquidity is a fucking mess.
Yeah, liquidity is always a problem. The biggest one, I'd say. UX issues does not come close to this. I'd say liquidity is the one we should solve somehow.
But isn't it just like inherently fucked the way like liquidity works on the Lightning Network?
Maybe. We are yet to determine this, I guess.
Like the cool part of Lightning is this, interoperable payment channel network that is relatively permissionless. But the trade-off of that is that liquidity is divided. I guess like multi-part payments and stuff like that could help mitigate it, right? But you're still mitigating something. It's still a inherent.
Yeah. Well, my hope is that hosted channels and private routing will address this at least to some extent, if not solve it.
So you mentioned private routing earlier.
Yeah.
If the name is any good, I assume it means routing over private channels. Am I incorrect about that?
Yes, it's exactly that.
Okay, it's a good name. So how far away are we from that? Like I thought you can't route over private channels because they're not publicly broadcast in the Gossip Network.
Yeah. Well, I can elaborate on all of that if you want.
Yeah, elaborate. Hit us.
Let's start from basics probably. There are two kinds of channels on Lightning, public ones and private ones, or another name for private ones is unannounced channels. That's basically the only difference between them and public channels. Public channels exist in routing graph, and they are visible by everyone who has that graph on their devices. And as such, everyone can use these channels to route payments. And private channels, they just don't do that. And the reason they don't do that is because private channels are typically opened to mobile devices, which are mostly offline. So even if they were to broadcast themselves to graph, it would make very little sense because most of the time they would be unusable because the device is offline with the way mobile devices are used. And another problem with that would be scalability. That is, if we ever to get millions of phones with private channels, if they all were to broadcast their info to routing graph, they would just, I guess, either bring it down or make other nodes prune them. So up until recently, routing through mobile channels was completely infeasible. But since the introduction of private routing, it actually became possible to route through private channels exactly when mobile device is online, even if it's something like 5 minutes per day, still possible, and without them becoming public. So I think this is very interesting area. It once implemented, private routing will unlock this routing liquidity of all those private channels, which was inaccessible earlier. And of course, this another way to increase liquidity on network and increase the number of successful payments. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm working on that currently, finalizing this, and this is expected to happen this year, hopefully, in simple Bitcoin wallet.
The main problem with like the private channel routing should be that you don't know that they exist, isn't it that? So how do you solve the problem of like making the people that want to route through them aware of them?
Yeah, once the wallet with such private channels becomes online, it would send a special message to all of its peers who support private routing that it can private route. It would basically be saying to each peer that I am now online and I can route this amount. That's it. And peers can use it themselves, and they can further relay this message maybe 2 or 3 hops further to inform their own peers that there exists private router right now, right here. And all of them would have this knowledge and will be able to use it. That's the plan.
So that would make these channels much less private in nature, which might be okay depending on use
No,
case.
it doesn't, because an information they will be sending is just like thanks to trampoline routing. They will be basically sending,
cool. Right.
Yeah, they will be saying I can route this amount, but they won't be saying how. They won't be disclosing how many channels they have. They could have like hosted private channels and use that for routing, or something entirely wild, I don't know. Something like Telegram group where they exchange pre-images or something. But yeah.
So what I'm getting is like, suppose I have a node that has a simple Bitcoin wallet connected to it through a normal channel or a hosted channel, and that same simple Bitcoin wallet is also connected to someone else's node.
Yes.
And then I get, and then when that wallet is online, it sends a message to my node, and my node is about to make a payment, and so it sends the payment to that simple Bitcoin wallet. Yeah, that simple Bitcoin wallet forwards it to the other node.
Yeah, it can use that option. It can use its own graph or this trampoline router, whatever is cheaper or more preferable, something like that. Yes.
But if I have a peer that's like another routing node that is online,
Mhm.
I can send a message to that peer saying, "Oh, I have a private channel here, an unannounced channel here that's able to
Private
route."
router, let's say
Yeah,
this
yeah.
way.
And that
Yeah, I
peer,
have a private router right here, right now, which is important. It is online right now, and it is ready to route such an amount. So if you want to route it through that peer, then be my guest.
Yeah, so I guess for users, you have to be very careful about the interactions with hosted channels, because as a user, I might be balancing my funds really cautiously between different hosted channel provider, because I might not trust any of them fully, and I'm prepared to lose any of these channels. So if I now enable routing between them, then that could essentially distort the distribution.
but I guess we can limit like, oh, I have I'll make a hosted channel here that has a limit of an amount. That's the amount I'm willing to lose. But I think this also works, this private routing, with just normal channels, no hosted channels involved, right? Right?
Yeah. Well, I can say that yes, using private channel for payments or for routing is always a risk, but like, I guess we're all grown ups here, so we can manage our risks. We can not use them if we don't want to, or otherwise. I'm not to judge like how bad this is.
I don't know if we're all grown-ups. I don't know if we can manage our own risk.
Well, okay, then we're fine.
So
While I have you, oh yeah, go hit us.
one question that like I had while you talked about it, did you do any research how much it would increase the liquidity on Lightning, or how much it would actually benefit? Because I did some probing back in 2019, so it's a long time ago. But it appeared that the user channels actually made up not that much of capacity. Like they were pretty small in general, and then there was a big core network with much bigger channels and a larger routing capacity. So I could imagine that enabling these user channels from time to time only, like that actually doesn't do a lot of good for quite some implementation complexity and quite some traffic, because every time now that someone comes online or goes offline, you need to send messages and stuff like that.
Well, I haven't
So
run
did you
any
analyze that?
simulations or something like that, and I don't have anything definite to say on this. This is, yeah, kind of an uncharted territory, and I think I should like run this and see how it goes. That's the plan. And then I would be able to say something more concrete after some time of it's being on.
One thing I like, I don't know if I think you didn't mention this, but the understanding I had before was that it would be good to have this private routing. So, for example, the Breeze node opens channels to a bunch of mobile wallets, and then it locks liquidity there. That's like lost forever or for a long time. And with this, like the Breeze can use these channels to route their payments.
Yeah, currently liquidity in private channels is basically lost for routing for peers.
But
yes,
I've heard many Lightning devs say that and I know not all Lightning devs agree, especially the ones that I have in this conversation right now. I've heard many Lightning devs say the expectation in the future is that most end users will have a single balance channel with like a well-connected routing node. Do you guys not believe that's the expectation? That's not what we should expect? Because I mean, if that's the case, then they're not going to be really providing any helpful liquidity there if they're just like an endpoint almost.
Yeah, if they have only one channel, they obviously can't route. They need to have at least two. Well, it's a hard question, because in order to pull this on that provider side, they really need to have a lot of money to afford to open a private channel to everyone. And then a lot of that liquidity that they put in each channel would be lost, because many of these channels would be offline for long periods of time. So It's really a hard feed, I'd say, to pull off to make this all profitable. So my understanding that routing is essential to Lightning. Whenever you have a channel, you need to be able to route from it somehow, and otherwise it's just broken design. Maybe I'm wrong, but time will tell.
Yeah,
I think
in my opinion,
people-
Go
Go
ahead.
on.
okay, in my opinion, like the people that have this one channel today, like they probably won't have a channel at all in the future, because they are typically just end users that don't have too much money in Lightning. So even as a Bitcoiner, like if you can have your Lightning funds, essentially, that today you have in this weird one channel that might go offline if your counterparty goes offline, so it's not really that great for you. But you could put it into a federation, let's say, in the eCash federation, and that would give you close enough, nearly the same functionality as with your one big channel today. And like the funds that you really want to keep for saving, that you keep on chain anyway, like that is not something you would keep on your mobile phone wallet in this one big channel, because you might lose it. So I see these end user nodes with only one channel disappear. Like you will either be a routing node, even if it's just a Raspberry, Pi at home.
Yeah, that could be true. I'd actually agree with that. That either you're a routing node of some kind, private routing node or public routing node, or probably you would be a custodial user of some kind.
Yeah,
maybe a hosted channel.
It makes a lot of sense. Like just imagine we are onboarding the next 6 billion users. Like not all of them are that technical that they are actually able to run a node. Not all of them have the funds to run their own node. So I imagine, like, if you have your local community of, let's say, 100 or 1,000 people, then there will be maybe 4 or 7 of them that are technical enough, that are Bitcoiners today even. And they will still be self-custodying. They will, using all the right cypherpunk tools that we are building today. But in addition to that, they will also be providing the service for their local community, that all these other people can access Lightning, for example, over federations, or they could be hosted channel service providers, depending on what succeeds in the market. So, yeah, I see these mobile wallets with actual Lightning channels disappearing, because it just doesn't make any sense to lock funds in a wallet that is only online from time to time. Like, it's not good use of capital.
Do you have any idea of what is the way Async and Breeze are planning to make money on their channels on demand thing?
I mean, their goal right now, I mean, they're just burning money for user acquisition right now. They're just eating it.
And then later they'll have ads on the wallets. What?
Well, I guess the idea is that there will be so many payments that they will be making some money on routing, I guess. Something like that.
I mean, and I have respect for both those teams, but I mean, also there's some money to be made on data. I don't know if they're willing to actually go into that business, but there's some data monetization that you can do there.
Yeah,
I think the secret plan is that opening all these channels allows them as a company to buy a lot of Bitcoin, and that will be enough in the future.
They're forced hodling because they just have all these empty they have all these channels that no one's using. They're just sitting there. Well, hopefully that works out for them. Do you guys know I mean, Eric, I assume so what you expect is, instead of users having this single channel open, is they're going to have, some kind of semi-custodial relationship, whether that's through your proposal or hosted channels or community wallets or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's also a third option, kind of like channel factories. It's called. It's even more researchy than what I'm doing. I think that's maybe in 10 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But where multiple people could come together and run like one Lightning node together and share channels and stuff like that, which is also pretty cool in my opinion. But yeah, either you like are actually routing, have multiple channels, or you are using such a node from someone else. Like there's like no way, in my opinion, that some people will be willing to lock up funds for you just so you can use them as a routing node. So you have to contribute something too by routing. So I actually agree with Anton on that.
Yeah, just to go back, I think you guys agree on a lot. Just to go back, first of all, that Moon conversation, I'm 99% sure that Moon, their V2 implementation hasn't released yet, and they're still doing swaps, but their intention is to run some kind of mobile Lightning client. Maybe they'll choose a Morden. That could be interesting. But I'm pretty sure V2 isn't out yet. Do any of you guys know how Bitcoin Beach Wallet works?
No, have no idea.
It's a server.
From what I'm getting, the Lightning node is fully custodial, but it only holds like a small percentage of the funds. I think I heard something like 5%, while the majority of funds are held on chain in the multisig wallet. So it's actually even closer to like federated eCash than hosted channels, kind of, because most of the funds are held in a federated way, just manually.
And that's kind of how you view like the early implementations of your proposal going, right? Where you just have like a small portion held in a custodial Lightning wallet and the majority is held in the federation.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
but I
that,
think that
like,
the multi-sig
I don't know if
part
they-
is like. Sorry.
Go on, Fiat, Jeff.
Like, this multi-sig part is like some ad hoc thing that you can do or cannot do. For example, on LNTX bot, most of the funds that the balances of users are on the Lightning node, but like I could close some channels and make a multi-sig on-chain wallet and say the LNTX bot is partly a federation. But I don't think that changes the nature of the custodianship. Like the Bitcoin Beach is a server with an API, HTTP API that the wallets talk to, like the normal custodial thing. But they have this idea of local communities each running their own server, which is not an uncommon model. Like LNBits also has this same idea, and I think hosted channels is like an evolution of that.
Because they could actually they could mix hosted channels with that relatively easily, right? Like the custodial Lightning wallet could be using hosted channels, and then they can have the majority of funds held on chain in multisig.
Yeah. The same could be true for a hosted channel from Anton today, for example.
Yeah, it's exactly true.
Yeah, but Fiat Jeff, like you of all people should agree that putting some of your funds in on-chain wallet would probably have been a good idea, like given the recent hack. Like that's exactly one thing you are guarding against with that.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Like even to a bigger degree, if you had the LN-Bits community where you have a 2 of 3 multisig, and this community has to decide when to replenish your funds in your Lightning node. And I agree it would be a lot of work. Then you wouldn't be the single point of failure anymore, kind of. Or maybe you still would be, because the ledger of the account balances would still be in your hand. Okay. In that sense, yeah, that's problematic. So combining that with hosted channels so you get actual proof of how much you own, that would be cool.
Yeah, but then it becomes impossible on Telegram.
Yeah. That's why I'm building my eCash stuff not on Telegram. Yeah, but one thing I wanted to ask Anton before we end this, like I got some feedback from people that if we wanted to do eCash sooner than my federated eCash proposal, why not just combine it with hosted channels? Like you could probably integrate eCache with hosted channels in a way that you don't know a user's balance anymore. Like, I guess from our conversation we had already, the problem is that you can't get the proof of payment and stuff like that because eCache behaves so differently from a Lightning channel. But in principle, you could still do the payments and routing stuff. Like, for example, if someone wants to pay you to pay an invoice for them, they generate the routing information or generate the onion, give it to the hosted channel provider, also give the eCache to the hosted channel provider. And the hosted channel provider knows because of the eCache that they should forward the onion message during the payment.
Well, maybe it's, of course, much easier said than done.
Yeah, certainly. But like non-federated eCache is actually like pretty old and pretty well established. Like when you look at the Wabi Sabi paper, they have a great cryptographic protocol they use that even allows arbitrary amounts to be encoded in the eCache tokens. So you don't need multiple of them necessarily, but you can have eCache tokens with arbitrary amounts that are still anonymous. So maybe that is an interesting thing to look at for you, because you could probably have a working prototype much sooner than me, because it's like much easier to build it in a centralized way than federated.
Well, perhaps. I think I should finish basic hosted channels first, because although it's in production already, it's not completely ready. There's still some work to do, so first things first.
Well,
Yeah,
as an
but,
end
do you
user,
think-
I would love if you guys collaborated.
It's
Yeah, I think it
impossible.
would be a very interesting feature to hide end user balances in these hosted channels using eCache.
You see that Eric is like assuming there will not be a true cooperation because it's impossible for like two geniuses programming together. It's better if each one does its own thing.
Well, I'm happy to be, the monkey head in between if you guys need some glue there.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy the conversation with you, and it's also much better to talk voice to voice than on Twitter screaming at each other. And in the end, like we agree on a lot of stuff. Just in the details, we have very strongly held opinions that differ.
I love the strongly held opinions. We have two questions in the chat. The first question is asking about Blockstream's peer swap lightning balancing protocol. I think this was released 8 days ago in El Salvador. Are any of you guys familiar with this protocol at all?
Sadly, I'm not.
kind of.
Okay.
I talked a bit off the record with Konstantin, who seems to be the lead developer behind this. And the question is if we can integrate it with federated eCache somehow, or that you could swap balances in and out of eCache. And I think technically it's possible. The question is, like, since eCache, these eCache federations are meant to be, they're meant to be many of them with different trust assumptions because there are different people involved. Like, can you actually find one with your peer you want to swap with that you both agree on trusting? And because otherwise, if you can't, then for inter-federation payments, you need Lightning anyway, and you would unbalance a Lightning channel in that way, and that would kind of destroy the whole point behind peer swap, which is that you only rebalance channels with direct peers or with peers only one hop away, in that sense that all involved parties actually want to do this. Like, you are not unbalancing someone else's channel. So I think it's an interesting idea, but complicated in praxis, I guess.
Fair enough. I have not looked into it personally yet. it would be nice if it is easier to balance channels and to have some kind of more distributed marketplace than Lightning Labs' pool. Someone else asked a relatively similar question. Do you think something like a lease pool that node operators participate in would be appropriate to cover the costs of opening individual private channels? And I'll just jump in here. I mean, I know this is Breeze's. Breeze has spoke about this. Breeze with 2 E's and a Z. And the fucking naming schemes of these Bitcoin wallets. Breeze has talked about this. I mean, the biggest issue is, to me, is UX friction. Is like, if a new user needs to pay somebody on Lightning to be able to receive on Lightning, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do from a UX perspective. It's not intuitive. And that seems to be the biggest hurdle with this type of stuff. What do you guys think?
No, I think it's true.
Yeah, definitely, and it's even worse. Like, how big do you make this channel you open when you want to receive your first payment? Like, if it's too big, you pay way too much in fees. If it's too small, then at some later point you will have to pay again. And how do you teach a user that at sometimes randomly, basically for them, they need to pay more in transaction fees? That's totally unintuitive.
Yeah, that's tough to convince someone.
Yeah, so that's another reason why I think these like just one channel Lightning nodes, that's not the way to go. It's just you can't get the UX right, because either you're spending way too much money on opening humongous channels, like poor Phoenix. I still have a channel open with them. I think 10 million sats or something like that, on like something ridiculous, maybe only 7. But I accidentally used it as an on-chain wallet and didn't notice that they automatically swap on Lightning. So I feel really sorry for them. Maybe I should just close it at some point. But yeah,
Nah, keep it open, teach them a lesson.
Yeah, either you do that, or you will have to repeatedly open new channels, swap in Bitcoin, which is an on-chain operation again and costs money. So it's not.
So I mean, right now, Simple Bitcoin Wallet, Anton's project, like he gives you the ability to buy from Bitrefill or from LNBig, which it would be a similar situation as this lease pool that he mentioned, except obviously would be theoretically more distributed than 2 centralized providers, but it provides the same UX hurdle. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Anton, you have any views there? I mean, obviously you integrated that feature, and that I can just press a button and buy a channel from LNBig, whoever the fuck that is.
Well, I agree. Again, this requires some level of understanding of what is going on. But
Yeah.
then Simple Bitcoin Wallet is actually not that simple after all, and it's aimed at somewhat prepared users, I'd say.
Yeah, maybe it should be called like Advanced Bitcoin Wallet.
Well, it's
Intermediate
called,
Bitcoin.
First version was called that, and then I just decided to not change the name. So yeah, it anticipates that user more or less understands what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, so I was actually I wanted to bring this up before we wrap this up. It was like a while I had you kind of thing. As someone who, Citadel Dispatch, the audience here is more technical focused. I think they have a pretty decent understanding of Lightning, how it works, the basic trade-offs. That's why I do Citadel Dispatch. My other show, Rabbit Hole Recap, is a more accessible show. And I do a lot of education just like to new users and whatnot. And when I'm like recommending wallets, and I already kind of alluded to it with Moon with 2 U's and Breeze with 2 E's and a Z, like names are important, especially when it comes across on audio. And like Simple Bitcoin Wallet is just like, I respect what you're doing. The wallet seems pretty awesome, to be honest, and it's very snappy. But like Simple Bitcoin Wallet as a name is a horrible name. It's an absolute horrible name. Like what? Go download Simple Bitcoin Wallet. Yeah, which one? No, Simple Bitcoin Wallet. You know, it just doesn't.
W's and 3 words.
Yeah, I do.
Maybe.
There's worse names. I'll give you that. It's better than Moon and Breeze, but yeah, I don't know if it's a good name for a wallet. It's kind of counterintuitive when you say Simple Bitcoin Wallet.
Also, when it comes to confusing users, there was a really interesting question in the chat if Simple Bitcoin Wallet is the same as Bitcoin Lightning Wallet, because that's what I asked myself too when I first saw it. Maybe you can explain the evolution, because they're probably related somehow, because you both worked on them. You worked on both.
Well, they are only related in the sense that I developed them, both of them, but otherwise they are different two worlds. That's not any kind of like inheritance from one to another, just different apps.
I think you must clarify that Simple Bitcoin Wallet was a wallet from 2014 or something. I don't know.
2016. Yeah, it was just a very simple Bitcoin wallet, Bitcoin only wallet.
And it had like 100K users, something like that.
Yeah, and still has. It's pretty popular. And yeah, at some point I decided to upgrade it to Lightning also. So that's the story. Instead of continuing development of Bitcoin Lightning wallet, because that turned out to be a dead end and not easily upgradable to private routing and other stuff that I wanted to go with. So I decided to continue on that in Simple Bitcoin wallet.
I mean, Bitcoin Lightning Wallet was also a horrible name, for what it's worth. And this is all love. I mean, so just my 2 sats, you know, take it or leave it. I appreciate you regardless. You know, Jupiter has like 20 something moons, and like Bitcoiners like moons. So like you could pick one of the Jupiter moons, could be a good name. You know, like Europa, Callisto, Thebe. Those are good names for wallets.
That's an
No one's
interesting
using them yet.
proposition. Thank you. I'll think about it.
Yeah, do you see someone in the comments? Is Simple Bitcoin Wallet with Y's? Yeah, don't do that. But yeah, I do appreciate you guys. Last thing before we wrap up, I mean, Fiat Jeff, you sent out a tweet, something about implementing Lightning in your app is a pain in the fucking ass. You want to talk about that at all, or?
I don't know. I think I'm just very unlucky because all the nodes fail with me. Right now, I have a bug on Eclair that doesn't route payments bigger than 8,000 sats. Like if it has the channels, but it doesn't find any routes, and yeah, it's being debugged by Eclair people and also Anton helping. But yeah, I have so many bad experiences with C Lightning before, and many of the bugs that resulted in exploited money, whatever, was like because the APIs were not clear and they didn't do what I expected them to do. And anyway, many bugs. And also I know that all the other custodial services had similar bugs. But that's where I was coming from. I wanted to ask one thing to Eric, like if he saw because I just saw a picture of that. I stand on the conference on El Salvador with Simple Bitcoin Wallet stuff and stuff being given out. It was very funny.
Yeah, it was the best booth with the best like ads ever. Like I had to take a picture of that. It felt so 90s. Yeah, maybe if people don't know what we are referring to, like there was a big poster with a beautiful lady advertising Simple Bitcoin Wallet. And,
oh no, wasn't it Ellen Big or was it Simple Bitcoin Wallet?
I think it was Simple Bitcoin Wallet.
It's handled by Ellen Big guy, yes, and he was promoting both himself and my wallet.
Oh. Yeah, because lady was on the
Yeah, about
poster of
that
Simple
lady,
Bitcoin Wallet.
we had a designer who was making this stuff, and he was like, we also asked him whether this lady is appropriate or not. He said that it increases engagement, guaranteed. So it must be there if you want like more attention. And why
I
not?
didn't know if it was like a parody or not, so it definitely created engagement. I
Well,
just
it
was
worked.
standing
Probably.
there, mouth open, like, okay, is this are they for real?
Well, I mean, I'm
It
pretty
was
sure
funny
like
as fuck.
someone said on Twitter, they were like, this is like, why would you just put that clip art woman on it? And then someone else was like, well, we're talking about it on Twitter. Like, we're looking at the picture on Twitter right now. So it fucking worked.
Yeah.
Did it look like a scam, or you think it was a good wallet by looking
Totally,
at that
totally.
poster? Totally looked like a scam.
I mean, who wants to try to sell stuff to you with beautiful women? Typically, car companies and scammers. Maybe cars are scams.
I was trying to
That's
find the
sense.
picture, but I failed. Eric, you were the one who posted it?
No, definitely not. I
No,
I sent it
it's-
to some people in private because it was so funny.
Yeah, I did see it on Twitter somewhere.
Just didn't want to cast
Anton,
judgment.
so like you have a relationship with Ellen Big?
Yeah. he
So, like-
pays for the work I do currently.
Oh, okay.
So-
So good dude?
Yeah, totally.
Because I mean,
As far as I can tell.
all of his nodes are like operate out of Virginia, like 30 minutes out of like Langley, like the CIA headquarters. And he was like half the liquidity on the Lightning Network. So
Yeah, as far as I can tell, he's a well-intentioned guy. So that's it. That's all I can say.
that's good. I think that's I have Eric sent me the tweet. Let me see if I can
Fiat Jeff, but
Oh yeah, Fiat Jeff sent it to me. Let me see if I can get I gotta put it up for everybody.
yeah, it was really hilarious.
There it is.
Like I came there the day before the conference. It was already open, and just walking around, and suddenly I spot this without any other people around.
You know what it felt like? It felt like Bitcoin like in 2013, 2014, where like it
Yeah.
was just all, like sexy ladies at the booths. But it's funny because like both Ellen Big and Simple Bitcoin Wallet, like there's no flair involved with either of those projects. Like you guys just keep building and you put out this work and the work speaks for itself and there's no marketing flair. There's no like grandiose or anything. And then then you guys have a lady on
And
the
then
thing.
this.
It's hilarious. Anyway.
Yeah, it was totally his idea, so I don't know what's going on in his head.
And we were talking about it, so it obviously worked.
I wanted
Yeah.
to know if the people there were explaining like how it worked, and then it was a good thing. If they explained it well or something.
Who were the two people that you had at the booth? They're just locals?
Yeah, there's some local Salvadorans who were hired by LNB guy to do all of this.
I thought it was cool that he sponsored it as a NIM. Like he has great OPSEC. No one really knows anything about him. I thought that was pretty cool.
That actually was hilarious. I went to the Alan Big stand and like asked the guy, "Oh, are you Alan Big?" And he was like, "No, I'm just some local guy presenting it for him." And had a good conversation and was super funny. So big shout out from me too.
Awesome. Well, guys, I mean, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. I appreciate you all for coming on. I think it's been very productive. I hope you guys agree.
Yeah.
I like to wrap up the show with some final thoughts. So we'll start with final thoughts. Fiat Jeff, final thoughts. Let's go.
Hosted channels are the only way for Lightning to work in the future. That's my final thought.
Very good. Final thoughts, Eric.
Let's make privacy the most user-friendly option.
Fuck yeah. Thank you, Eric. Anton, final thoughts.
Yeah, well, I'd like to point once again that liquidity issue is important and must be solved for Lightning to flourish. Privacy can come later, as important as it is.
Fair enough. I think they're interconnected, but I agree. So guys, I mean, I do a lot of work in open source development funding, in education. Obviously, I have this show and Rabbit Hole Recap. So if you guys ever need anything, do not hesitate to reach out. You have my contact information. I hope to have all of you on again sometime soon. I really do appreciate all the work you've done, and I appreciate you guys joining us. And thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cheers. And a big thanks to the freaks who joined us in the live chat and who have listened to this show. I have some great lineups set up for the following Bitcoin Tuesdays. Next week, we're going to be jumping into mining again in terms of trying to source cheap power will be the focus next week. And then after that, I will have the boys from Nodl on to discuss operating a business regarding self-sovereign users and trying to make using your node as easy as possible. So thank you to the freaks for listening, and thank you to our guests for both their contributions to Bitcoin and for joining us. Cheers, guys. Love you, freaks. Don't stop believing. We have, I'll see you guys for a Rabbit Hole Recap tomorrow, special Thanksgiving edition. And I'll see you next Bitcoin Tuesday for another Citadel Dispatch. As I said earlier, we'll be focusing on mining again, home mining, and sourcing cheap power. I reminded you guys, I think 2 episodes ago, but I do have the cheapest discount code to Bitcoin 2022 because I'm helping them out over there, and I'm not taking an affiliate cut. So if you want, you can use the code open source. Do not share that on Twitter. Otherwise, people will get mad because it's a higher code than everyone else because I'm not taking that cut. So cheers to that. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Stay humble, stack sats.